My wife insisted that our dream house be in her name. When I refused, she threatened divorce. I reluctantly agreed, but a week later, she begged me to reconsider, only for me to stand firm and say no. This whole situation started out so simply. Laura and I had always dreamed of building our perfect house, a true dream house. We spent years talking about it, saving and sketching out every little detail. We debated things like cabinet handles, the color of the front door, and even where the kitchen outlet should be placed. This was supposed to be our house, a symbol of everything we had worked so hard for. When it came time to finalize the paperwork, I thought that would be the easiest part of the process. But then, out of nowhere, Laura dropped a bombshell. She said, "I think the house should be in my name, for protection." At first, I thought she was joking and laughed. But when I saw her serious expression, I realized she wasn't kidding. I asked, "Protection from what?" "From me. After all, this was our house." She shrugged and said, "It's not like we're planning to divorce, but I've seen too many cases at work where joint ownership causes problems." Honestly, it felt like the ground was ripped out from under me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just any house, it was our dream house. And here she was, talking as if she was preparing for a future without me. We argued about it for days. I tried everything to make her see my perspective. I told her that we had built this life together, and that this house was supposed to be a reflection of both of us, not just her. But she wouldn't budge. One evening during dinner, she lost it. She slammed her fork down and said, "If you can't trust me on this, maybe we shouldn't even be married." I just sat there stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked, "Is that really what this is about? Because it sounds to me like you're the one who doesn't trust me." She didn't respond. She just grabbed her purse and walked out. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy feeling in my stomach, her words replaying in my head, "Maybe we shouldn't even be married." What kind of foundation was that to build a life or a house on? That evening, I sat her down and said, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about the house, about our marriage, about everything. And maybe you're right. If we can't agree on something as basic as this, maybe we shouldn't be married." Her eyes widened. "Wait, what are you saying?" "I'm saying if you want the house to be in your name, fine. But if that's more important to you than our partnership, then maybe it's time for us to end this." You could have heard a pin drop. She stared at me, her face pale. "You're agreeing to a divorce?" she whispered. "I don't want a divorce," I said, "but I won't stay in a marriage where trust is one-sided." A few days later, she moved out. I won't lie, it was incredibly difficult. I kept second-guessing myself, wondering if I had made the right choice. Then, a week later, she showed up at my door. She held a coffee in one hand and a small notebook in the other, the same one we used to jot down ideas for the house. She looked like she had been crying for days. "James," she started, "I made a mistake. I let my fears take control of me. Please, can we start over? I'll put your name on the house, the deed, whatever you want. Just don't give up on us." For a split second, I almost said yes. Almost. But then I remembered everything. The way she'd made me feel, the threats, the lack of trust. I couldn't erase any of it from my mind. So I shook my head and said, "Laura, I care about you, but I can't go back to a marriage where I'm always waiting for the next threat to come. I deserve better. We deserve better." A few months have passed since then, and I've started building a new dream. Not a house, but a life where I don't have to fight for my value. I don't know what Laura's up to now, but I hope she's figured out what she really wants. As for me, I've got my name on my own deed, and I'm doing just fine. Let me tell you, walking away wasn't easy. For a while, everything felt like it was moving in slow motion. I'd wake up each morning and half expect her to still be there, making coffee or complaining about the neighbor's dog. But the silence was a reminder of what I'd lost and what I'd let go of. I threw myself into work to keep my mind off it, picking up side projects and tackling things I'd been putting off for years. Remember that woodworking class I always talked about? I finally signed up. Turns out I'm not half bad. I built a small coffee table for my new place. It's no dream house, but it's mine. About a month later, I ran into an old friend, Kevin, at the hardware store. He knew Laura and me well, so naturally he asked, "How's the house coming along?" I paused before answering. "There is no house, Kev. And no marriage either." His jaw nearly hit the floor. "Wait, what? What happened?" I gave him the short version, leaving out the Messier parts because it wasn't his business. But when I mentioned putting my name on the deed, he shook his head and said, "Man, that's rough. Sounds like you dodged a bullet, though." At first, I bristled. Dodged a bullet? I loved her. She wasn't some random mistake. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized he might have been right. Then came the curveball. Laura sent me a letter. A handwritten one. Apparently, texting wasn't dramatic enough. In it, she poured her heart out. She said she'd been afraid of losing everything, that growing up with divorced parents made her paranoid about relationships. She apologized for how she'd handled things, saying she'd been trying to protect herself the wrong way. She told me she still loved me and wanted to meet up and talk. Let me tell you, that letter messed with my head for days. I reread it, trying to figure out if there was anything left to salvage. She sounded so sincere, so different from the person who had stormed out of our marriage. But in the end, I realized that love wasn't enough. Trust is what makes or breaks a relationship, and once it's shattered, no amount of heartfelt letters or coffee shop meetups can fix it. So I didn't respond. Fast forward to now, and I've got a new place, a cozy 2-bedroom with a view of the city. It's not a sprawling craftsman-style house on a hill, but it feels like home. I adopted a dog, Buddy, who's a bit of a goofball but the best companion a guy could ask for. Sometimes, late at night, I think about her, the life we planned, the life we almost had. I wonder if she's found her peace or if she's still chasing it. You know what? I hope she has. As for me, I'm finally in a place where I can look back and say, I did the right thing,